Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing another review and demo for you guys on a new foundation. This is the MERCIER Flawless Fusion Ultra-Longwear foundation that's come out. I feel like I've seen everybody on Snapchat like hauling this or getting it in PR, and so I was super excited because MERCIER does have one of my favorite foundations. It's the Silk Cream Oil-Free Photo Edition foundation. I do have a review on that one as well and demo if you guys like to see that one. But basically how I like to do my reviews is I like to try these out for about 2 weeks. I have only been trying this one out for about a week, but I'm going to the beach and I won't be able to film for 2 weeks, so I wanted to go ahead and get this one up. But I have worn this for a total of actually 8 days, so just not really a little bit over a week, but like a week and a day. And I did keep the box because I do want to read like the claims and stuff that this has for you guys, as well as kind of what Sephora says about it. Because this is where I purchased it, because I do get it sent sent in 2 days. So yeah, basically what I want to do is go ahead and go to the demo so you guys can kind of see how it applies. I apply one side with a brush and one side with a sponge. I also talk kind of about how I've applied this. I am using a primer in this video, and I'm just using my Smashbox Photo Finish Primer in Light. And just go ahead and get into the demo. So I hope you guys enjoyed that demo. I do have the shade 2-in-1 in case you guys are curious. This shade right here is very similar to the Estee Lauder Double Wear in the shade Desert Beige. I think the shades are very similar. This has a really nice neutral undertone. I noticed that online it does. They have neutral, cool, and warm undertones, which I think is really nice. I'm glad that more like foundations that are coming out, they're starting to actually put the undertones like in the description and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be easy to find a shade. They do have a variety of shades. Like I said, here online they do have some very fair shades going all the way to some really deep shades. Maybe if this sells well, they'll come out with maybe a couple more different options. But anyways, what I'm going to do is just kind of read you guys what this foundation claims on Sephora, and then I will again just tell you guys, pretty much answer all the claims and how I feel about them. So the first thing is that this is supposed to be coverage-wise. It's supposed to be full and medium coverage. It says it's good for sensitive, normal, dry, combination, and oily skin. And it is supposed to have a matte finish. So it just says that it's a 15-hour, long-wearing, oil-free, and transfer-resistant liquid foundation with a matte finish and weightless medium to full coverage. Get lasting wear and all the coverage without the weight. The oil-free foundation is formulated with skin fusion technologies to seal it into place for 15 hours of high-performance, comfortable wear that's transfer, sweat, humidity, and water-resistant. Coated pigments glide on to create buildable medium to full color that stays true and wears evenly. The matte finish is never dull, flat, or cakey, and it minimizes imperfections while the silky fine powders help control oil immediately and throughout the day. Weightless texture looks, fits, and feels like a second skin. It's ideal for all skin types, especially normal to oily, and it's available in a wide array of shades. So again, I was pretty excited because it does sound like this foundation is kind of geared a little bit more towards people with normal to oily skin, which I was really happy about. So basically, it is $48. You do get one like fluid ounce with this. The packaging is really nice. It's just like a glass packaging. It kind of reminds me again of like the Estee Lauder Double Wear. It's like that frosted glass. And the top, you guys probably can't see like on camera, but it's like a zebra print. It's like brown, like a really dark brown, and it's got like black stripes. It's really unique. I like the pump. I like the fact that it comes with a pump. A lot of foundations, believe it or not, I prefer a squeezy tube because I feel like with pumps I can never get that last little bit out of the bottom, and I always end up having to unscrew it and like, you know, dig it out. But this pump is different. I feel like it doesn't dispense a lot of product at once, which I think is a good thing. Like, I do have to use 2 pumps to cover one side of my face and then 2 pumps to cover the other side of my face, and that would usually, you know, sound like a lot. I feel like in a normal foundation, but in this foundation, it's, you know, I feel like the pump, 2 pumps of this equals up to like 1 pump of what a regular foundation would be, is what I was trying to say. So I'm going to first talk about what I was talking about coverage wise, because that's the first thing it kind of mentions on the Sephora website. So it says it's medium to full coverage. I definitely think this is medium coverage. I don't think it's full coverage in my personal opinion, because I do have acne and stuff that I want to cover. It's what I have on today, and while it does do a pretty good job at covering, I definitely even with building up in the areas where I need it to be built up, I still can't get full coverage. If you don't have any blemishes or uneven texture or anything that you're trying to cover, I think that this would be considered full coverage to you. But I think for someone like me who has like acne to cover up, then again, this isn't full coverage. I don't mind building this up or anything like that, but I do still feel the need to kind of go in with a more heavy duty concealer to really, I feel like, you know, cover those blemishes. But like I said, I do like the coverage. I really like it. I think this is more of a natural kind of like silky matte. I wouldn't consider this like a matte foundation. So it's very natural and it looks very like skin-like. So if you're someone who's maybe wanting something that's super matte, I don't exactly think that this is going to be a foundation for you. As far as it causing any breakouts, I've been using it for about a week. I haven't broken out anymore or anything like that, so that's always awesome when we can get a foundation that doesn't cause us to break out. So again, like I was saying, I think that, again, this is one of those foundations you can kind of manipulate the finish to, because what I use to apply these is I like to use a sponge or a brush. I'm more of a fan of the sponge because I feel like the sponge kind of takes away any excess product. It kind of like presses the product into the skin. Whereas like with a brush, I feel like it just takes a little bit longer to blend it in. This looks a lot more, like using a brush, it looks a lot more matte, whereas using a sponge, it looks a little bit more of like a natural finish. So again, I prefer the sponge. Now I've got how long it lasts and what primers I've used. The 3 primers I've used is the Smashbox Photo Finish Primer Light, the Stilo One Step Correct, and then my Becca Evermatte Poreless Priming Perfector. So again, this is one of those things that, like, if I use this one, I think that I get a more like natural finish, but this really helps like make my makeup last a lot longer. I'm someone that primer really makes a difference for me. I do not like this as much without a primer, because on most days, I wore this just 2 days without a primer. But anyways, it only lasts about 4 hours before I feel like my oil starts seeping through. So that's something to kind of take into consideration. Again though, primer is something that really helps my foundation, and this is one that I really like. But I also like the Stilo One Step Correct. This is good because on days when my skin's just a little bit more red, or I want some more like brightness to my skin, and this is great. I don't think that this helps like the longevity of that foundation a lot, but I do still think that it goes over top of this primer really well, and these two together look really good. If you want a more like brightening effect to your skin, definitely use this one. Now lastly, one that I only pull this out, I feel like, when I'm leaning more towards like dewy foundations or like the NARS All Day Luminous. Like, that is such a pretty foundation, but it just does not hold up on my skin at all. But if I do take the Becca primer, this stuff is so thick. But you squeeze it out, and it's not one of those you want to immediately rub on your face. You want to kind of rub it between your fingers like this and warm it up, and then it kind of press it into your skin. That's what I do, and this is one of those primers that, like, I feel like I could take the most dewy foundation and this primer would like make my makeup last all day. So I have actually been going for this one more with this foundation, because I do think that this foundation gets a little bit more oily than I would like when I do use those other primers. Now, it does last 6 hours like with each of these primers, but with this one I can at least get 8 hours before my oil really starts seeping through. I've only worn this for a total of 13 hours. Test out the 15 hours, but it has worn for 13 hours. Me and my mom actually went walking yesterday and I wore this foundation, and it held up pretty well. We were like going up some pretty steep hills and stuff like that, and it was hot outside and very humid, and I think that it held up pretty well. But I do definitely recommend a primer with this one if you have oily skin, because it definitely has really helped with mine, because I loved this when I first initially applied it without a primer. It looked gorgeous skin-like. I was like, wow, this is going to be one of my all-time favorite foundations. And then after like 4 hours, I was like, oh my gosh, I look like a greasy pizza. It's pretty much what I looked like. So I definitely would recommend using a primer, and I do really like this one because I do think, like I said, it really helps with the longevity of this one, especially since I feel like it does get a little bit oily a little bit quicker. So it does say that this was transfer proof, and I think when you first apply this and like you touch your skin, it's fine. It's not like it is transfer proof. I do still have to set mine with a powder again because I do get oily. But when you do start to get oily, if you like touch your face or your nose, it comes off. And I noticed when I would blot, I did get some of the foundation to come off. It didn't look like it took away too much of the coverage, but it did still come off, so I did want to mention that. It says that it's lightweight. I completely agree. I don't really ever feel like it's on my skin. I almost kind of forget it's there. But then when I do feel my skin getting oily, I can definitely feel that it feels heavy, like in this area, which I feel like is common with most foundations. So the only places I feel like I have with it getting cakey or anything is around my nose, which is pretty much I feel like all foundations. So I'll usually put more concealer right there or really moisturize that area because it can get kind of dry. Also do feel like breakouts that are kind of maybe like started peeling or something, this does sink around there and emphasize that. Not as bad as a lot of other matte foundations do, but this does still emphasize it. But all my other breakouts, like the ones that aren't like crusty and stuff, it does glide right over top of them and, you know, doesn't emphasize them or anything like that. I don't feel like this is oxidized at all. The Urban Decay one, which I've been wearing recently, oxidizes a lot. I love that foundation, but then like I'm always like, I'll go out, I'll look at myself in the mirror, and I'm just like, I swear this foundation was like a shade lighter an hour ago. But this doesn't oxidize, which is great. It does leave a silky looking finish to your skin. My sister, when I wore this yesterday, we went to feed her boss's cats too. She was just complimenting it, how good my skin looked, and it just looked really well. And you know, again, it is such a pretty foundation. Like, it's been a long time, I feel like, since I found one that I think looks this good. So that's great. So it also doesn't settle into any of my forehead wrinkles or my smile lines, which again is awesome because I always talk about a lot of foundations settling into these lines. So that's also a plus because a lot of my favorite foundations do settle right here, and I'll have to put a more like thicker primer to kind of fill those lines in so that doesn't do that. So lastly, thing I want to mention is, like I said, I do think that this is buildable. I definitely feel like it can start feeling a little bit heavy on that second layer, but if you just kind of build it up in the areas that you need it, I do still think that it feels lightweight. So yeah, overall, do I think that this is a nice foundation for oily skin? I think that if you're someone who's willing to get a more mattifying primer, and just to make sure that you powder your face, and also if you don't care to blot and powder around hour 6, or even around hour 8 if you use like a really mattifying primer, I really think that you will like this so far. Like I said, I've been loving it. I am going to be taking this with Florida to me, so if you guys, like I said, I'm going to have this scheduled probably when I'm gone. So if you guys will comment, I'll try to get on and log on to my YouTube and answer any questions, like how it's doing while I'm down there and stuff like that. So yeah, if there's any other foundations you guys would like me to do a review and a demo on, just let me know. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.